Life lessons from the crazy Dutch farmer. Lesson number 8, vice. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Persohn. You can contact me at pastor@mascot.church or in the comments below if you wish. If you enjoy these, like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Who cares? Vice, V-I-S-E. Now, this is not V-I-C-E. Vice, V-I-C-E is a character flaw or an addiction or some evil or problem in a character that might have a vice that has to do with some addiction of alcohol or drugs or whatever. No, this is a different thing. This is V-I-S-E, vice. And I've got some interesting memories from the crazy Dutch farmer on the whole topic. Now, when I say that the crazy Dutch farmer is crazy, it's good crazy. It's the best kind of crazy. If you called me that kind of crazy, I would say thank you for the compliment. So there's no sense of anything at all like that, because there is bad crazy. There's kind of nutty crazy out there. But no, this is good. And the crazy Dutch farmer had good crazy. He was is driven to accomplish and do things well to a high standard and not afraid of a good day's work. Many of those lessons have stuck with me over the years, and I've had the opportunity to pass them on. Well, Harry had a workshop like it exists on all farms, and on the workshop was a very important tool called a vise. So let's have a look at what a vise would look like. This is one that is, pop it up on the screen here. This is a bench vise. You noticed a couple of holes down below and a handle. So let's just see if I can just point here. The holes down here for mounting it on the bench. This bar moves in and out, and it affects the size. The opening here, these are jaws, the jaws of the vise, which you can actually replace on some vices, on any good ones. And then this handle, so you can squeeze things, crush things, do all sorts of cool things with a vise. And if you're going to be working hard, pounding on something or cutting or whatever, you want to hold it. And that's what the vise is for. Now, Harry had a smaller vise, doing little bits of work, and then he had a big vise, and he had a few big vices. I think he had 3 in the time that I was there. One had just busted, he replaced it, and then he broke another one. Harry seemed to like to test a vise to its maximum, and he was always looking for bigger ones. It's like, I remember the time he turned up, I've got to, let me show you what I've got in the truck. It's a big vise. Well, I don't think he ever had a vise this size, which is in the old money, somewhere around 200 pounds. Let me pop this one up on the screen here. That's a big vise, or it actually might be more than that. It might be 200, not quite 200 kilos, but that's a real beast of a thing. You look at the size of the jaws on this one and the handle, and this is a big anvil in the back end. So this is the kind of, I'm pretty sure, ladies and gentlemen, that if I'm absolutely sure that if one day Harry found out that vise was available within reasonable distance, he'd have gone to get it just to have it on the bench. We would have had to reinforce the bench for this sucker. That was a big piece of work. Well, what about vices? And what's the lesson? The lesson here is actually quite simple, but it's nice to see it in such kind of stark terms. When you go about and you plan to do something, take your time to think about what you're doing. Don't just hop in and do it in a stupid, mad way. And when you do, be sure you have all the tools that you have around you to do the job, that they're in hand and that they are reliable, good quality tools. I've heard this phrase, and it's true that a workman is only as good as his tools. I think probably it should be a little smarter than that. The phrase should go something like, a workman is only as good as his tools and the skill required to use them, something like that. But I think you know what I'm talking about. You see people using the wrong kind of tools in the wrong kind of way, or the right kind of tools in the wrong kind of way. One time I worked with a very, very talented programmer, and he was, as a gifted programmer, very, very smart, but he was also very gifted with people. And that's a hard combination to find, someone who's both good at his craft, but he can well understand what's going on in the world, so he can take what's out there and turn it into his skill and his craft. Very, very hard. Have you ever noticed that to succeed in life, you basically need 2 qualities? You need your skill developed to a high standard, and then the ability to relate that skill to the outside world. I think it's pretty obvious, but we don't often think about it in those terms. He was very good with his tools, But one day he said something to me that was a little bit concerning. He said, Al, I said, yes. He said, I need to put up a shelf in my house. I said, okay, I've put up a lot of shelves over the years. I put shelves up on concrete walls, on wooden walls, on just every sort of thing constantly. I'm very good at putting up shelves. And he said, I need to put up a shelf. I said, okay, no problem, right? And he said, I need a bzz, bzz. Uh-huh. And he said, I need a bzz, bzz. Then he goes like this. I need a bzz, bzz. Oh, I said, you need a drill. Oh, yeah, I guess that's, yes. Where do I get one? It's been a long time since this conversation I had with my friend, but I think I managed to talk him down. I don't think I said, this is where you go to get a drill, and these are the bits that you use, and this is the wall, and this is what you need to do before you take the drill to the wall. And be sure there's no power cables behind it, and be sure you're not using the wrong kind of drill. You're going to collapse, whatever. Now, he was good with the tools that he had. In fact, he was exceptional with the tools that he had. But up until that time in his life, had never used a bzz, bzz, never used one of those. And holding those two stories in tension is kind of useful in my own mind today and going forward. You know, I'll often hop into a new job, a new task, either something physical or maybe a writing task or a research task or something. And I've learned in my own life to have a look in advance at what I'm going to need to do that job. Also look to be sure that what I have is working and that it's to a high standard of quality, that it's clean. If it's a piece of equipment, that it's clean, that it's safe to use, that I can trust it. If not, replace it. The last thing you want to do is to be in the middle of something important and a particular tool breaks. And it's like, oh, now what am I going to do? Of course, things do break. Well, Harry would take a vise and he would use it. I think he wanted to see what the vise could take. I actually think it was Harry versus the vise most of the time. It's like, do you really need to hit that thing that hard? You know, he'd put a piece of metal on there and he's working it. And in my mind, I'm watching him slamming this thing and quietly saying, I think it's more about breaking the vise than fixing the thing. More about that. Well, it might be. There's actually a guy who has a couple of YouTube videos on breaking vices. You know how strong they are and what it takes to snap one and so on. And he then catalogs them so you know what it is that you need to buy. I've got small vices down in my workshop for doing very delicate electronic work, maybe stuff. Watchmakers have even smaller stuff than that, really, really delicate. And I've got a medium-sized one, but I've never broken a vise in my life. Harry, however, had a thing about testing his tools to the maximum. We had something similar happen, of course, with the manure spreader a couple of episodes ago. This is the same sort of idea. All right, what's the takeaway from today? Life is hard. Work is hard. Don't make it harder by doing dumb things. That's the last dumb work comment. Know your tools, get to know your tools very well. Be sure they're safe and be sure they're reliable. Be sure you know how to use them. Your tools may be soft tools or hard tools. They may be knowledge tools or whatever. Get to know your tools. Get to know your tools well. One of the unusual things that I've seen many times, and more recently you see it in computer-related tools, but you see it also, is that tools have capability and abilities that people never, ever exercise. They buy it for this one thing, and then they say, look at all the other things it can do. Yeah. Learn to get to know your tools well. Your tools, some of those tools we have built into us as people. They're our gifts, our capabilities, our talents. They also need to be developed. You know, just because you have the ability, just because you can put a guitar over your shoulder and sing a couple of songs does not mean that you're going to be at the best of your game. Those talents, those gifts, those natural things that we have need development. They need testing. They need to grow all the time. Over the many years of pastoral ministry, I've seen this probably more than I've seen in the secular workforce. You see people in a different way in a church environment. I've seen people with wonderful skills, gifts, and abilities that they have never taken the time to develop. Just because you have a fearless ability to stand in front of people and a voice that projects does not mean that you are a capable public speaker. There are many rules you need to obey. There are many things you need to do. There are qualities. Just because you can type does not mean that you can write. I'm learning this very much at the moment in stuff that I'm doing. I'll put sentences together and I think that sentence is just horrible. I wouldn't ever say it to anyone or read it, and I have to restructure it. Well, skills or capabilities or talents that you have must be developed. Tools that you have need to be understood and need to be used very, very well and very, very effectively. Well, here we go. I think that is one of my one of those lessons that you like all of these lessons, you catch them, you capture them when you're younger, but as you get older, your understanding and your appreciation for the lesson improves more and more and more. My name is Al Persohn. This has been Life Lessons from the Crazy Dutch Farmer. Lesson number 8. The topic is vice. God bless you. We will talk later. Like, share, and subscribe if these work for you.